are driven by the finer things. I see more than materials and wealth. What have you got to give to me? What I don't already give myself. You are driven by the
New episode of Illuminated DiiSCLAIMER. Sydney here. Hope you're finding brand new, beautiful ways to illuminate your own path. Now today, I wanted to talk about the power of teaching others. Now, I'm just going to give you a bit of a background on my education journey. I would say that I wasn't necessarily much of an academic, I should say. And I spent a lot of my time, I guess, doubting myself. I used to compare myself unfairly to other people because I didn't understand what was being taught. And as a result, I got a little bit cheeky. I think that would be a good way to describe it. And it came to a point where I was spending more time outside of the classroom than inside of the classroom, get detentions basically every day. And I just felt like the education system wasn't built for me. Now I feel that a lot of people probably feel the same way. Education system is not right for even the best of us, but some of us do succeed and thrive with education and academics, and fair play, it's each to their own. But for me, I didn't really have that. But one thing I did know was I was ambitious. I wanted to get to a point where it would just be all eyes on me. I found what I wanted to do in my life, and I just wanted to progress in it and just be the best I could be. And that's what I appreciate about my childhood self. I always had that power, drive, and ambition to just make sure that I was somebody. Not to compare myself to someone else, I just had this innate desire not to be mediocre. So I would find the best schools for me to go to, but because my academic side wasn't there, I tended to fail. I got to a point where I went there, they said no to me, and I basically said, I forgot how old I was probably like 10 or 11, let's go to the next place. But because the academic side let me down, I went to one of probably the worst schools in my area, and yeah, St. John Rigby, blub blub. That was a fun few years, didn't really learn much, but at least I passed. I got a few C's, and that helped me get to college, and from college that helped me get to university. But same thing with academics, it just didn't fit in right, and I was just not understanding things, and I was losing so much sleep, and I was writing so much, but none of it was going in. And after a few months, I dropped out, and I dropped out 2 more times after that because I realized that the problem wasn't me, it was the academic system. And that's when I started to learn that after taking a few years out of the education system, I can learn, but I just need to interpret the right way. Now, when it comes to visualization, that's how a lot of people learn. A lot of creatives in particular. They can write something or see something in a detailed drawing, for example, and just learn so much. But some people are more literature. They look at words. But for me, my thing is teaching others. For me, teaching others gave me so much benefit. When I realized that I was in a situation where I had to teach someone about something, that's when things just started to click more. There's so much from taking excerpts from a theoretical side and putting it into a practical side. For me, it just sticks in. Now I'm going to give you a few reasons why teaching others is the best course of learning for me. Okay? First one, critical thought. Now, I teach maths, and I feel that maths is something that I used to struggle with a bit. Growing up in GCSEs, they said, no, you need to go into foundation level. You can't do higher level because you're probably not going to pass. Do foundation level, the maximum you can get is a C, but it's so much easier. And I was like, cool. So I barely scraped maths. But how did I go from being not that good at maths to working in accountancy for 7 years to being a maths tutor and enjoying it? Critical thought. I realized that maths, amongst other subjects, You need a good level of critical thought. You need to question your answers, not just answer your questions. You need to say, why is this that? Everyone knows what 2 plus 2 is. It's 4. But why is 2 plus 2 4? I say to a lot of my learners, I said it a couple of weeks ago, I was like, what's half of 10? My learner said 5. I said, why is it 5? Because 5 is half of 10. And I was like, that's wrong. You know what the answer is, but if you can't describe how you got the answer, then to me it's a wrong answer. I say to my learners, yes, you can get the right answer, but I'm more interested in your workings out. If you do an exam, you get your 1 mark answer where they need those, but a lot of the marks come from the 2 mark answers, the 3 mark answers, the 5 mark answers. They basically want you to do as much working out as you can, because there's no point of answering 1,000 questions and just saying, oh yeah, that's the answer, that's the answer. You need to actually understand why, because it's that critical thought which you can push forward into states of being in your future. Whether you're doing shopping, you can add critical thought there. When you're speaking to someone and having a conversation or a discussion, that's critical thought. Even what car you need to buy in the future, you can use critical thought. And this is why I love teaching. And this is why I learn the most from teaching, because you inspire critical thought. And by giving critical thought, you also bring it back to yourselves. And that brings me to my next point. Learning through others. Now, there's different ways of learning, which is completely understandable. For me, learning through others, I get that a lot from teaching others, because there's sometimes 10, 15 people in my class. And I say to them, you know, do you know the answer to this? How would you work out that? Etc., etc. But when I speak to people, they teach me their learning styles. Like, I teach adults, so usually sometimes I'm the youngest in the class. I have people who are retired, people who have jobs, people who want to get higher qualifications. But a lot of people were grown around the older education system. As a result, they have a different way and approach to how I was taught. And there's a different approach completely to people who are probably half my age. So from teaching others, I also learn how people interpret their own things too. And as a result, from that as well, I can learn 2, 3, 4, or even 5 different ways to complete a subject and teach more people and get more positive results. Okay? Learning through failure. Now, I can't say that I am the perfect example of a maths tutor. When it comes to the academic side, I still get a lot of things wrong. There are people here who they're like, Sydney, that's not right. No, Sydney, you didn't carry the 1. And that's the perfect thing. Like, when you come into a role like this, it's difficult because you have all these people looking at you and they expect you to know the right answers. And that's the initial thought. That's the fear of it. If you looked at one of my previous episodes, fear-based mindset, love-based mindset, if you need to find it, just go through the Illuminated disclaimer page, it will come up. But while you do that, you might as well like and subscribe and leave a comment as well. Thank you very much. But what I realized was, when I got something wrong, I was like, oh, my bad. And I started to realize that when I got it wrong, there would be occasionally someone in the class that will have the answer and they'll teach me. So it works out. Also, it gives a good window of opportunity to actually discuss what the answer could be. If 29 times 9 isn't the answer which I wrote on the board, how can we get to 29 times 9? What do you think the answer is? How do you think we get the working out? How do you think we should express this? In what measurement should we express this? We start to have an open conversation. A lot of the times you see a teacher or you see someone who is on the TV screens, whatever, as someone who's perfect sometimes. But what is the best thing to say is, they're only human, they make mistakes sometimes. And when someone exposes or expresses their vulnerability, that's when we have more of a conversation to help that person overcome that vulnerability. This is where we get a lot of good, positive, beautiful conversation. And I realized that some of my best lessons came out of me not understanding the course subject. And the final thing I want to talk about today, if I can use this pen, is I want to talk about learning to become more self-sufficient. Now, I didn't know how to do long division for 15 years until one of my students basically said to me, yeah, I got the answer. Did you use a calculator? No. How do you do division then? I did it like this. And I was like, it took me a decade and a half to understand, and you just done it in about 15 seconds. When I learned that, I realized that a lot of the things that I am learning from my students and from myself from teaching maths, I can make it into my own package. The thing about being a teacher is every lesson you go into, you learn a little bit more to be more efficient. You use less words, you use more worksheets. You might detail something differently. You might make your own exam. You might even keep some of that information that you retained and make a course for yourself in the future. And that's my intention. I've done dozens of classes, dozens of maths classes, teaching people who have very basic math skills, the people who are level 2 in GCSE ready to go even higher. I've had university students, I've had college students, I've had people who are in the nursing profession, the teaching profession. I have people who are managers. You know, I have people who are managers of managers. And what I've realized is when you teach more, you learn how to adapt to your environment. And this to me is so important because a lot of these people, they're teaching you how to be a better version of yourself. I'm not here comparing myself to other people. I'm here learning from people. That's why I say you get comparisons, and you get cooperation. And I learned from these people, and now I'm like to myself, well, I've learned so much about maths, but I'm not thinking that I want to teach it in the way that my teachers taught me because it just went in one ear and out the other. How do I make it more engaging? How do I make it more dynamic? How do I make it so people will leave this classroom and say, you need to go to Sydney for your maths? And I realized that I could one step that. I am a business owner. I am someone who's got a business orientated mind. If I can do it for someone else for X amount of money, then I could double it doing it for myself. And that's one of my mantras. I can make more money if I get all the classes that I've taught so far and put it on an educational platform like Udemy. I'm just not going to use this pen. If I put my information into a course, put my data into a course, put it on a website like Udemy and sell it for a high price, one, that'll be on that website permanently, and two, people will buy it. People will buy it. The more successful I become in my business, the more chance that people will buy my product. So from teaching others, I've also taught myself how to be more entrepreneurial. So yeah, that's basically why I would suggest everybody teach others if you don't feel good with learning things from an academic point of view. I would even say if you do feel good from an academic point of view, find ways to teach other people. There are people out here who need help, who need understanding, who need solace. You know, they need all these things, and if you do like helping others, then teaching can be a great pathway for you. So that's been a brand new episode of Illuminated Disclaimer. I've been Sydney. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe and share. That would be greatly appreciated. And till next time, keep on finding ways to illuminate your